Business is, Sharon, will you call the roll?
Yes, and we are not using a paper agenda, so you will see the agenda on your screen as we move throughout the meeting. All right. Demita Beck-Taylor. Robert Deal.
Here.
Dale Grimes. Jennifer Hackett.
Here.
Midori Lockett.
Here.
Jeff McCormick.
Here.
Beth Reardon.
Here.
John Sherman is here. Lisa Smith. Michael Sullivan. We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sharon. And this is going to be a really fun meeting because we have some great news to share with everyone. But the agenda is before you. We want to get a few updates from our last meeting, as well as Sharon, you're going to give us some more information on all the things that's happening in your shop.
Yep.
Before we turn to the order of business for the day is to review and either approve or not approve our annual report that Sharon will be presenting. And then finally, we're going to end up with an update on where we are with our plan. So with that, I would like to first, we need to approve the minutes of our previous meeting and of March 24th. Golly, it was almost a year ago. It was over a year ago, 2021. So the minutes, I believe we all have. I would entertain a motion for approval.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
I'll second.
All right. Did you get that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion carries. And I'm assuming that all of you did read all 162 pages of the transcript from that meeting as well, knowing how dutiful you all are. With that, I want to turn it quickly over to Kate Pham. Kate is our attorney who represented us in the appeal that Waste Management brought against the board for our decision of a year ago. And Kate's going to give us some news and kind of review where we are.
Let's try and do this. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Kate Pham. I'm with Metro Legal. So as you all were probably aware, there was a lawsuit filed, an appeal essentially of this board's decision to deny the expansion of the Southern Services landfill. That appeal went forward on oral argument finally, I want to say March 1st, and the chancellor actually issued an order yesterday, I think, or the day before, very recently. And this, all in all, this board's decision was upheld, meaning that now we have a situation where the Southern Services landfill can, or Waste Management is the plaintiff, they can, within the next 30 days-ish, file an appeal to the Court of Appeals, and then this decision, it'll keep going, and we'll have another argument in front of the Court of Appeals. But if they don't, there will have a final order, and that would mean that the decision of this board is final. So we'll keep you all updated on what happens with that, whether there's an appeal or not. But I'll give you a basic overview of the case. So the Waste Management argued three basic things in front of the chancellor. They ordered that they argued that this board did not look at the issue of their application quickly enough. There's a 90-day time frame under the act, and in this case, they did not submit a signed and notarized application until much later. So they had filed applications before, but they weren't signed and notarized, and the court said that was correct, that we did not have to accept those applications, and that 90-day time frame didn't start until the application was complete, which involved having that signed and notarized. The other issue that was sort of procedural in nature was that the plan that had been approved by this board was approved back in, I think, September of 2019. And it was immediately sent to TDAC pretty much like a month later for approval. And TDAC, for whatever reason, we don't really know, it's not clear from the record at least, didn't do anything with that for a long period of time. So at some point, staff emailed TDEC and said, hey, we want to make sure we have an approved plan. And TDEC did say, oh, yes, this plan is approved. And that all happened prior to Waste Management's application for the expansion being heard before this board. However, one piece was missing. One of the requirements for a plan is to have been certified by the Metro Council, and that had not happened. And so what the petitioners argued, what Waste Management argued, was that that was a procedural irregularity that should overturn this board's decision. And what the chancellor ended up doing was agreeing with our position, which was that's not a procedural issue. You're trying to challenge the validity of the plan. TDEC approved this plan, end of story. And of course, at the council has now actually acted to approve the plan as well. So no harm, no foul. It's sort of a harmless error. And the chancellor essentially agreed with that it was not a procedural issue. And under this type of review, you can't be looking at the substantive issue of the plan itself. So those were the two procedural issues that they brought up. And then they also tried to argue that because the plan had not yet been fully implemented, there was some testimony, I don't know if you all remember, whoever was there, a lot of discussion was around how maybe some parts of the plan had not been implemented by Metro Council yet, like aggressive recycling and all of these, and they were supposed to go hand in hand with the idea of not expanding landfills. And Waste Management was arguing that because the aggressive recycling hadn't happened yet, well then it's arbitrary and capricious to then also require the no expansion piece of landfills. And the chancellor essentially said, look, this is like a 20 to 30 year plan. We're not looking at it in a 2-year time frame and saying, Metro, you haven't done enough, and that regardless, that's not something that she's going to get into. The chancellor defers to the board in those types of situations. So I think it's a really solid order from the court. I think it's very likely there will be an appeal. But if there isn't, it'll be final in whatever 30 days from the 28th was. And so if you watch your email, we'll let you know when an appeal comes in. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Members, anybody have a question?
I like that. Oh,
no, yes.
No, that was a thumbs up, not a question.
Great.
But if you have any questions that come up afterwards, if you think of something, feel free to email me. Tara has my email address, and I'm happy to answer those. Okay.
Well, thank you
so much.
Thank you for representing us so ably.
And thank you for creating such a great record. I will say that was a very good record from that meeting. So.
And I think that I was just telling Midori that there was this really a team effort that I think all of us really chipped in, and the conversation was extensive, as everyone who was there knows. And I thought that we built a really great record, and it was based on our intentions of the plan in the beginning. So it was perfect. It was just a great, I felt, a team effort. So, and this is great, board. We have we have one of those pieces that we set out to accomplish with this is to actually get to zero waste. And the only way to do that is we make sure that we don't have cheap landfills. And so this is one of those pieces. And we know we'll still need one somewhere in a small amount, but for the time being, and now we have a C&D recycling person on board. We'll even have a better chance at making that happen. So, fantastic. Pat yourself on the back, and good job. So, and you too, Kate.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And also Tara for helping set this all up. So, thank you too, Tara. With that, it looks like Sharon has dutifully jumped up to take to the next piece, which is she's going to give us an update on what's happening in her world and her department.
So before I begin, I just want to introduce a couple of members of our group. Allie Omens. Allie, could you shake your hand? Allie joined us as a intern, as I recall, right out of, don't tell me, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Yeah. and worked with us on starting out with the material exchange that they have here with the state, to where businesses and industry can somebody has extra pallets, somebody wants pallets, that type of material. And she worked with us. She started looking into C&D recycling. She got really involved. One day Jen came and said, man, we need to hire her. It was some version of that. And Allie joined us. You worked with us for almost a year, I believe. And then she was hired right as we were moving over to Metro Water Services. I believe the day we moved over was her first day as a full-time employee. And then we were also very fortunate to get Rachel Musetti, who's joined us as an AmeriCorps member, to work on our zero waste initiatives. And she is a fantastic young lady as well. We're very lucky to have young people, as some of the rest of us, Clay and I, are aging out. You know, Clay doesn't think he's aging out, but we just celebrated his birthday, so he is. So we're very fortunate to have them, because it's been very interesting to see the community's embrace of zero waste and the concept, Metro Council's interest in zero waste, as we saw when they met to approve the plan. But what I wanted to talk about was a little more on operational, what has happened in the last 8 months. And as many of you know, there was a MOU between Public Works and the Metro Council to move waste operations from Public Works over to Metro Water Services, and to create a Nashville Department of Transportation over at Public Works. And of course, all that happened, I believe June 26th was the day that we packed up and moved over to Metro Water Services. Clay, Jen, Allie, Rachel, and I are all on the 5th floor. And the rest of our operational staff are up at the East Center, where historically waste operations folks have been. So all of the collection programs associated with waste, except for brush collection, moved over at that time. Brush stayed with NDOT, because the brush equipment is used for emergency response. Debris removal, you know, they have those big knuckle arms that come out and pick up tree limbs and stuff like that. So that stayed over there, but everything else, including the recycling drop-off sites, even the dead animal collection, all of that moved over to Metro Water Services. And we have our zero waste office up there on the 5th floor, where we're looking at the various initiatives around waste reduction and legislation and education and all of that. So up at East Center, we have all of our equipment, our trucks, our carts, and of course the budget that we had approved by Metro Council was also moved over there with us. So there we are. What I really wanted to talk about was some of the excitement going on around waste. And this chart shows you customer complaints from January 1, 2021 through yesterday. And you can see, you know, some of this I think helps to explain why we did suspend curbside recycling right before Christmas. It was, you know, a very difficult choice. There were a lot of conversations around what we were going to do, because our main contractor, Red River Waste Services, was really struggling. And in December, you can see from that chart that the complaints were starting to skyrocket. So we made the difficult decision to suspend recycling. Metro started picking up 10 Red River routes, and we made it through the end of January. So things seemed to be going good. We restarted curbside recycling, and then everything went back downhill. So we restarted, we gave all the routes back to Red River, and then you see the very tall bar showing all of the complaints on missed pickups that started to come in. We continued trying to help them a little bit here and there. They kept telling us that they were going to be okay. And then finally, towards the middle of the month, we started picking up 5 of their routes a day. What we did is we actually required our recycling staff to work 12-hour shifts and the trash staff to work 12-hour shifts, so that recycling trucks could pick up 2 routes or 1.5 routes, depending. and then everybody else was diverted towards picking up Red River trash. And during that time, part of what I was doing was trying to find emergency contractors that could come in and help us. The advantage we did have is that we had put out a solicitation for waste collection in the fall, and we were in the process of negotiating with 2 contractors that are coming on board, Waste Management and Waste Pro, and so that allowed us to utilize both of them to help us. This is something that I think everybody will find interesting. The far left, you're going to see the distribution of routes by hauler. And, Red River obviously had, significantly more routes than anyone else. There are some different versions of this chart out there that breaks it down by customers. Red River actually has more customers because they have all of the automated routes, which are going to have, anywhere from 7 to close to 1,000 customers. And Metro and Waste Industries have rear loader routes that are going to be more in the 400 to 600 range. So Red River actually has almost 72% of our customers. But just looking at it by route, Red River obviously had the majority. Now we brought in Waste Management, and so between Waste Management and Metro, we have over half of the routes with us now. And of course, Waste Industries still has their same amount, and Red River is down to 40%. But in doing that, and to continue to be able to help when issues come up, we got Waste Pro, who's our other incoming contractor, to help us with recycling, and they're picking up 3 of our recycling routes every day. And that has made it possible for our staff on the ground to respond to issues. When we have escalated complaints, they can go out and they can address it. And things, as you can see, have started to go, or plummeted actually from February to March rather quickly. And I think that April is going to be even lower because we are really in a much better place now where fewer people are showing up with issues. The programs that moved over, I will say, are, and everything was the staff, the equipment, all of our programs, collection contracts, and of course the material end of life. That's the recycling, processing, and the landfill disposal. One thing that we're doing right now is we're in the process of doing a complete operational assessment of our division. We have CDM Smith, who was our zero waste contractor, working with us to look at every aspect of our division. Do we have enough staff? Do we have too few staff? What about the equipment and the age of equipment? And I will say for Red River's defense and Metro's, the repairs and getting new equipment has been seriously impacted by the pandemic. Supply chain issues, and I've had people talk to me on the phone and say, don't blame this on the pandemic. Well, it's a residual. It is a byproduct of what has happened. And even now, when we're trying to lease trucks, because we have too many trucks broken down waiting, sometimes there are no available trucks out there. People don't make big garbage trucks and just have like hundreds sitting on their lot. Each one is ordered and then made and then sent out. So it's been really challenging. So CDM Smith is looking at all of our collection programs. They're looking at all of our staffing, all of our equipment, our costs, our revenues, including capital costs, where money comes from, the customer service issues, material end of life, and they are going to be looking at best management practices in the industry and also what our peer cities are doing. And I just dropped down at the bottom. We try to look at peer cities that are in the Southeast, but not all of them are. And I will admit that for us, Austin on the waste side is more of an aspirational than a peer city. But it's really good to have some cities that are doing significantly better in Nashville in the mix so that we can make sure we're doing a really good comparison. And that, one more thing before I go. That is all on the update for waste services. But now I want to talk briefly about the annual progress report, which is truly the reason we're here today. Every year about this time we gather to review and approve the annual progress report. For those of you who are not familiar with this report. In 1991, the state passed the Solid Waste Management Act, which required counties to develop solid waste regions. Some counties worked together and developed multi-county regions. Davidson County decided to form a single county region, which is why we have the Davidson County Solid Waste Region Board. For example, Murfreesboro and some of the other counties are in multi-county regions, and when their board meets, they're looking at waste issues for the entire region. So today, the report that you're going to be seeing is a report on the Davidson County Solid Waste Region, as required by Tennessee Code. We complete this report. It is due on the 31st of March, so we're right down to the deadline here, as we usually are. And an important component of this report is Nashville's progress towards zero waste. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Clay Hand, who's going to be talking about the statistics. All of you have a copy of the report, and you can find a copy of the report on, if you go to water.nashville.gov and scroll down to the very bottom, you will see the link to the Solid Waste Region Board. This report is there, and all the previous reports that you can look at. For the purposes of this meeting, the report has a lot of things in it, like how many convenience centers do you have and where the recycling drop-off sites. We're going to focus just on things that are usually unique for this year, including our disposal tonnage and our recycling tonnage, which is what Clay has spent the last 2.5 months gathering for us. So I'll turn it over to Clay Hand. He's our environmental engineer.
Hi. This slide shows the landfills that take our MSW waste. As you can see, the bulk of it goes to 3 landfills. Cedar Ridge and West Camden are both waste management landfills, and Middle Point is in Murfreesboro Republic. And then there's a smattering that goes to those other scattered landfills around town, and some goes out of state. And it went up a little bit, about 80,000. And this is the C&D landfill. Totals, Southern Services gets the bulk of it. Of course, it's down about 100,000 from last year. And then by county gets a little, they're growing more, and they're in Montgomery County, so that's a little bit of a haul. And then this is where we go around. We ask various businesses in the area to give us recycling data. Private, no, this is the public, sorry. This is what we pick up. And that the thing, we think most of the drop from last year was probably because of the tornado in 20, where there's a lot more brush, wood waste from the tornado in 20. So those numbers are, 10 or 15,000 higher than what it is this year. But everything else is about the same. And these are the private sectors. These are pretty close because the wood usually is all in the public side. But again, most of this is about the same. Some go up, some go down. Okay.
Any questions on the tonnage? As you'll see, C&D has dropped a fair amount, which I think has been really interesting to look at. And when you combine the C&D and the MSW together, it's a difference of just a few thousand tons from last fiscal year, or last calendar year.
Any idea why we had the drop in C&D?
I do think Waste Management might be trying to preserve some of their space as they went through the lawsuit. I'd like to say that it's Allie's hard work. She's created a task force. We have a group of people that meet along with Jen to work on construction, demolition stuff. But as far as the diversion that we're seeing, like that is in the report from C&D diversion, it's actually dropped from last year to this year. So it could be that we're starting to see a slow decline of the bubble around construction. But I do imagine that they're trying to preserve some of their airspace.
They should take a lot of disaster debris, right, in 2020?
They did take, oh, yeah.
Can you say that again? Because that.
No,
I
that
was
was,
just asking a question
Yeah.
about the disaster debris from 2020, if that might have had a factor.
yeah, I'm sure that did, and that's a very good point, Jen. Thank you for saying that. And of course, that didn't happen. We had the flood in 2021, but that material actually ended up going to Republic. It didn't go to Waste Management. So that, thank you. It's a good point.
Yeah, the MTech facility that Waste Management operates last year was about 12 or 15,000 tons of just storm debris that wasn't
Yeah.
there this year.
All right, other questions? You have more to talk about, right, Jen?
Yes.
Good, okay.
Yeah, so I'm just going to take a moment to talk about kind of all the initiatives that we've been working on in effort of the Zero Waste Master Plan over the past year. So first, I do want to start off with construction and demolition waste because, of course, it's been on this board's mind and it's been a big one on ours as well, and it's a huge part of our waste stream. As we mentioned, Allie Omens is a full-time staff member that we've been able to fund specifically focused on construction and demolition recycling. And with that staff member also came our permit program for reporting on construction and demolition projects. So all large commercial, multifamily construction projects are now, or permits as well as demolition permits are required to provide an actual report. This was something that started July 1st of 2021. So we've had about 6 months worth of data that we've been able to collect, 6 months worth of this permitting process that has been going really well. So there's not any requirements to recycle, but there is that requirement to tell us what you are doing with that material. So what you see on your screen here is that we've had 400 plans reviewed, pretty much all by Allie. So a lot of work to look over all of those plans. It's been exciting to see. We've been gathering data on diversion strategies and whether or not folks are trying to certify their projects with any kind of sustainability initiative. So LEED as well as other different certifications as well we've been looking at. But there's been 11 LEED projects. 37 projects actually clicked the button to let us know that they wanted more information about recycling their construction demolition debris. This is a wonderful opportunity that we've been able to have and engage with all of these different developers and different architects and folks in this industry to educate them on what's available to them. So not just through this process, but reaching out as well and doing that network with the industry through this program. So excited to see that. And then 87 projects of those 400 were listing that they were using some kind of waste reduction strategy. So some good information. We have been getting, there's kind of two parts to this. There's the plan part and there's the report part. So most of this information is from the pre-planning process of these projects, and we're just now starting to see more of the reports come in. So with the permitting process, you get a building permit, but then for the construction projects, you also need a use and occupancy, and we have a space in both of those for an approval process. So to get their use and occupancy, they have to let us know those exact numbers of where they're taking the material, what hauler they're using, and how much material went where. So we're really looking forward to seeing some of those kind of report side pieces to this plan, to this project, but it's been really exciting. As well as you'll also see a little snapshot of our website. We have outfitted our website with all kinds of information and resources for developers, architects, contractors, any of those folks in the industry to understand what recyclers are out there, what processes are out there that they can tap into, what strategies they can use to divert. So not just recycling, but going on that higher level of the waste pyramid to talk about prefabrication and reuse of materials, and just, you know, all of those higher level strategies that you can do in addition to recycling to reduce waste. Yeah.
So can you just say again where it says 87 projects, 37 projects, 11 projects, out of how many? Like what's the...
That's out of the 400 plans reviewed.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So Jen, do people have questions on this piece? Other questions on the C&D?
I'd like to know if the 87 projects using a waste reduction strategy includes the 37 requesting recycling information and the 11 seeking LEED approval.
I'm pretty sure that the 37 projects requesting information, they may or may not. I think it kind of falls, and it definitely falls probably into some of those. We
Okay.
can certainly find that information out and get that to y'all. The 11 projects seeking lead, I'm sure those are included in the 87.
Okay.
So one other question on this.
Yeah.
So is there any authority to go out and check? Do you actually get to verify whether or not what they're saying is real? Or are you getting something back from whoever they take it that they're giving, just like with waste? Somehow you're getting a certificate of, if somebody is saying, yeah, they delivered it to us, or no, or how do we know?
So there's not a requirement to provide any documentation, but we are asking for it. So we have been getting some of those receipts back that show that they're taking it to this, using this hauler or wherever they might be going. Right now, that's not something that's currently required. We would like to require that in the future, and really looking at that more with when we at the point that we want to try and require recycling. One thing that this has done is that it has certainly spurred a lot of interest and a lot of support to work towards legislation that would, or policy that would require recycling in the private sector. And absolutely, that would have to be something that's considered, that would have to be incorporated into that type of program and those logistics to make sure it's actually happening. But right now, it's just that plan report that's in Metro Code that's required.
Because the advantage of that plan is that it now gives us the opportunity to educate people when they say they're not going to do anything, which right now, all that we were trying to do was get people to stop and think about it before they move forward and have the opportunity to be educated. That was sort of the gateway into what is coming next, which is now we're looking at those materials that are highly recyclable, that have plenty of markets, local markets, and moving slowly maybe not slowly, but moving in that direction.
And this too, I'll say, has informed us a lot about just the industry and how it works and how people understand their waste. We have found that pretty much all of these contractors, they never thought about it. They just signed a piece of paper and it was going somewhere. They didn't care. They didn't think twice about it. So there's been a huge learning curve for a lot of these contractors or permit applicants to help them understand, to even think about their waste in the first place. So it's really helped us to be able to then, when we do start looking at policy, when we do start looking at those requirements, how we can form those to meet the industry where they're actually at. So it's been just a very fascinating educational experience for sure.
Great.
Other questions on C&D? All right. All right, next, I did just want to briefly talk about sustainable in the city. So we have a wonderful partnership with Urban Green Lab. They have been partners in so many different things regarding zero waste and continue to be a huge support to us. And one of the ways that we have been able to engage in public education this past year has been with our Sustainable in the City series, live stream series. So in 2021, we were very ambitious and we had 2 of these episodes every single month. So ended up with 23 total episodes, and that brought in experts from all over the city in all different areas of waste and sustainability to talk about these types of issues. We had talks on construction and demolition waste. We had a couple on recycling that were very robust with a lot of wonderful questions from folks. We talked about the economics. We really got to dig into some of these waste issues that we don't normally get to talk with the public about. So it's been a really wonderful program that has continued into 2020. As well, we went down to a once a month series, but that's allowing us to really try and engage some new groups and just make more robust programs, whereas we were starting to get to the point where we had so many, we were just trying to find anybody that could show up. So we definitely want to be a little bit more thoughtful this year so that we're making really great programming for people, because we've had a huge following of folks. There are folks that have gone to seen every single episode. People ask us for the chat transcripts. It's just been really wonderful to see that engagement. So the numbers are on the screen. We had the 23 episodes, 34 different experts that showed up to be part of this program. We had 1,340 unique registrants, so that was unique people across the entire 23 episodes, and then 710 unique attendees as well. So the difference between registrants, those are people that signed up, they got a link to the recording, but then the unique attendees, they were all live. So those were unique people. So there was plenty of people that were the repeat guests as well. Any questions about sustainable in the city? If you haven't caught it, it's really fascinating, wonderful program. All right, next I want to talk a little bit about zero waste education on our website. One thing that we really wanted to do this year was to make zero waste more of a presence on Nashville.gov. Not just the recycling program, not just our waste collection and those programs, but actual zero waste. So now we have a home, very much thanks to Rachel, who has worked very hard to put a lot of these materials together. And we've done it in a way that we can guide residents in Nashville depending on what information they're looking for. So zero waste for individuals, what can you do at home? Zero waste for businesses, what can you do at work? What can your businesses do to reduce their waste? We, of course, have the zero waste for developers that leads to all the information I talked about earlier. We also have zero waste for event planners. One of the things in 2021 was also to require recycling for event permits. And so we've got more information, not just about that requirement, but more information about how they can reduce their waste, incorporate composting into those events as well. So we wanted to make sure that there were additional resources that went along with that requirement. And we have a full guide for folks on how to do that, and includes an example contract as well to use with vendors. So a lot of really robust resources. We've also worked to put together a lot of robust resources for MMPS teachers as well. So that's available with a live virtual tour of the compost facility, a live virtual tour of the recycling facility, and all kinds of other things available there as well. Any questions on those? All right. I think this is the last one. The most exciting thing, I think, or one of the most exciting things that we did in 2021 was to launch our Nashville Waste and Recycling app. This has been huge in helping us address our contamination rate. As you all know, in 2020, our contamination rate was 46%, which was astounding. So it's almost half of what people were putting in the recycling was not recyclable. We were able to drop that down in huge part to the Nashville Waste and Recycling app to 26.8%. So that's a huge drop. That means a lot of savings on the program. It makes the program more efficient, makes recycling, and it also means that all the recycling tonnage that you're seeing that we're collecting, more of it's actually getting recycled. So that's a really important thing for the program, and of course financially for the city for that program. But the app is wonderful. We also just launched last week the sorting game, so you can see a little picture of it there on your screen. So now folks can go in. We're going to start doing a lot more promotion around this to help people understand what bins things go in. The nice thing about this is that it also addresses some of the recyclable items that can't go curbside but could go to a convenience center. So things like e-waste, scrap metal, mattresses, those types of things. This game engages you in where those materials can go as well. But ultimately, we have 383 items, listed materials in the app that you can search to find out where there's proper disposal, as well as whether or not you can recycle it. There's been almost 40,000 views of those materials since its launch in March of 21. And then over 8,000 people have installed it on their app. And we've had, it also has collection reminders as well. So folks that have curbside collection, it does include brush as well, but trash and recycling, all those curbside collections, so you can get reminders. And there's been almost 13,000 collection reminders that were created from that as well. So it's been a really wonderful program, or wonderful app for us and tool to be able to educate the community and provide them the information that they're looking for. And you can get that on a mobile device. You can also just look at it on our website. Questions about the app?
So hopefully the plastics issue is really well addressed on there.
Yes, the top items that are searched are, and it took a long time to decide how to address the numbers, but basically if you look up a number of a plastic item, it says, try again. You need to look at the actual material and not the number, because the number is really no longer, it never really was helpful in terms of whether or not it can be recycled. But it is one of the top things searched, as well as I think, oddly enough, mattresses are in the top things that are people are searching for, and then plastic tubs and things like that. So definitely plastic remains a huge issue, and there's a lot more plastic materials than maybe some of the other recyclable materials in there.
So just a comment, I was actually shamed by one of our council people, Berkeley Allen, when she realized I was putting plastic in my bin that I wasn't supposed to. So I'm guilty of it. It's like, no, it just says number 2. And anyway, so thank you for that. And Rachel, thank you for your work on this.
Yeah, it's definitely been helpful. There's been a lot of wonderful reviews from the app. People just find that it's so much more helpful for them to be able to look up a material and get an answer, as opposed to, is this a bottle? Is it a jar? No, a plastic tablecloth is not a bottle, jar, or jug. But people have those questions, and it is confusing. So now they can just look it up, get the answer, and then move on, and they can stop thinking about it so much. So folks have found it helpful. Oh, I do have another one.
I have a question about that with, I don't know what we are residentially now, somewhere between 500 and 1 million people. But we have 8,000 mobile app installs, and that's where we are attributing most of the success. So I'm worried about everybody else.
So the mobile app installs don't necessarily mean everybody that's been using the app, because you can look at it online. That's not necessarily, they may not have necessarily downloaded it. The last time we did talk with Recollect, based on other cities that had been doing advertising, we're on par with other cities, if not doing maybe a little bit better in terms of advertising. It needs continual promotion. So absolutely, one of the things we're looking at over the summer, now that there's been more things in person, is we're starting to get out in events, we have one this weekend, to get in front of people and really continue to push it, because that is absolutely what needs to happen, is to continue to push this app, continue to make sure people know that it is available. But we are so far on par with how other cities have seen this progress and people use it, and the rate in which people are downloading and using it.
Okay, and follow-up question, because people are so desperate to recycle their plastic and the market isn't allowing for that per what you're listing on the app, do we have any progress, maybe you're getting to this, on expanding that? Is the market improving? Do you have any new vendors that are willing to take more of this plastic waste?
There's a few, I will note mostly number 5, polypropylene, is the one that's really been the next available market for plastics. There is a market out there. It's just a matter of our facility sorting it. So we have talked with our contractor, Waste Management. So they're the only ones that have a real sorting facility here in Davidson County for curbside mixed recycling. And if they have the ability to better sort that material. So most plastic, they have an optical sorter that was a new piece of equipment in 2020, I believe is when that went online, and that is able to use an optical eye to sort out PET plastic, whereas everything else is pulled out by hand. So they have just completed, if not are undergoing, an upgrade to their facility, an electrical upgrade, I think, to their facility, so that they can start adding more of that equipment, because we have pushed them, we've talked to them a lot about polypropylene, because there is a market for it, they just need to be able to sort it. We've also explored this in tandem with the Recycling Partnership as well, to try and provide them grant funding. They did turn that down, but they did let us know that they were interested and willing to look into the potential for that, but I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Well, I will say that and of course I get a whole bunch of, I should say trash emails, but emails from waste management industry. And there's been more of a movement towards limiting, well, sort of two things. One is the chemical recycling that Eastman Chemical is looking to get into, and the other is advocates pushing more towards limiting the types of recyclables or types of packaging that can be used, to focus on the more highly recyclable. During the last 12 months, over and over again, the clear HDPE, so your milk jugs, were more valuable than aluminum. And as far as the market was concerned, and then you have other plastics that, could technically be recycled, but nobody really wants that material. So I think we're gonna see going forward that we're either moving towards the chemical recycling, so everybody can use whatever plastic they want, and which I think is sort of unfortunate, because it is still a non-renewable resource. or the route of, we're going to limit the types of plastic. Ironically, I think that the ocean plastics and some of those things that, we see a lot of environmental activists talking about has probably been one of the things to push the industry this direction. Still, we're looking at, of all the plastic ever produced, 8 to 9% of all of the plastic ever produced was actually recycled. And that's the real issue, is that we're just creating a bunch of stuff that nobody really wants.
So to that end, I'm wondering, and maybe this is where our AmeriCorps friend comes in, I'm not sure, but we have Trader Joe's, Kroger, Publix, Whole Foods are our main grocery stores in this area. Is it possible to call a meeting with their local buyers and say, we would really like to see the raspberries to come back in the pulped paper instead of the clamshell here in Nashville? Can we do that?
That would probably require some type of legislation to make something like that happen. I mean, those types of things I don't believe are decisions made locally, but more regionally. And unless the state or the city has a requirement, it's probably not something like that the local store could do.
So let me ask it a different way. If that's not a staff thing, can we, the board, reach out to them and ask for a meeting and ask for them to do that? Because I understand that they're probably not going to change their purchasing patterns unless there's legislation, but asking hasn't been tried yet.
No, I completely agree. In Kroger, I think is a good example. They have their Zero Hunger, Zero Waste. They're committed to, or on paper, on the web, they're committed to diverting food waste and eliminating plastic bags. Of course, none of that has happened yet.
No.
But I think their goal was 2025 or 2024. I mean, it's still upcoming. But, I would be more than happy to try and organize a discussion with, I know that we have contacts with Kroger, but I'm sure that we could get contacts with some of the others.
I think that'd be great. And honestly, we saw the list earlier of who our peer cities are. And if we let our peer cities know that we're calling for these conversations, we're not trying to legislate anything at this moment. We're just asking them to look at what's obvious. Perhaps they would also like to do this at the same time, so that Kroger, who also happens to be in Charlotte, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That they're getting this, we really should probably get ahead of this. I understand that it's likely to be doomed to fail, but if we don't start giving those ideas,
No, it never hurts to ask.
right?
Yeah.
Is that Kroger initiative, is that company-wide, or is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be interesting also, Jennifer, thinking about Todd Lawrence and what they're doing, because I know they have a whole corporate sustainability program going on. You know about this? Yeah, so I'm just wondering what he's doing in this regard too, and what their shop is doing, and maybe but it's like, it would just seem as if this would be one of those, from an uninformed place, a duh, right? It's like, they're probably talking about that, but I don't know. Right?
I don't know if they're talking specifically about that. I mean, I think part of our hesitation has been around the state legislation that doesn't allow us to place any restrictions on containers. And so asking people to do it has to be voluntarily, because the state has taken away our ability to, to place a ban on a plastic bag or a soda bottle or any type of container like that.
And they don't want any more landfills though, too. So they got a little, all right.
So I'd like to follow up on that with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, to see, it doesn't matter to me if it's us or if it's you, and I want to stay within all the laws and regulations of what we are and aren't allowed to do, but I would like to make the ask.
No, I think it's very appropriate to have a representative or two from the Solid Waste Board present. It's so that people understand this is not, government employees that are asking. This is actually members of the community who have volunteered to be on a board to look at how we can, specifically tasked with looking at how we can reduce waste.
Any other questions on this one? And then I did want to address food waste just very briefly. So we don't have curbside food scrap collection, but we do have a very robust drop-off program that has almost doubled in the amount of material that we've collected in 2021. So we've increased the amount of capacity that we are taking at all 4 of our drop-off locations. We do that in general, it just increased, but then also we look at during the holidays, we started increasing capacity to capture pumpkins and really started pushing some of those seasonal materials as well. So we have just seen a wonderful increase in the use of that program and diverting that material. Of course, we also have been working on our backyard composting workshops as well. So we've done a number of those virtual as well as now have an on-demand version of our Dirt on Composting workshop. So you can go online, you can watch the workshop, it's about 20 minutes, and then you can follow the link in the description that takes you to a quiz, and then that quiz, if you just complete some very simple educational questions about what you learned in the video, you get entered to win an Earth Machine compost bin. So it's a way to kind of just reiterate the education of the video, but then also continue to make those Earth Machines available and get people composting in their backyard. We are also starting to do in-person workshops. We had one just last week at Bell Garden for backyard composting. We'll have one next month at Trinity Presbyterian at one of our community compost sites that we work with. So those continue to be successful. People love to learn about composting, and we continue to have lots of participation and interest in that. Any questions about those programs? I think that's it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Jen, and Clay, Sharon, for that nice presentation. Does the board have any other questions of what we've just heard from the 3 leaders in our waste management firm?
Trash people.
The trash people. The 3 wise people. Well, and so we will now turn to public comment. I do just want to also just put a quick placeholder in. Jennifer asked about us taking, some action on meeting with folks. And so before we leave, I want to make sure that we make a decision formally if we want to endorse that and give Jennifer and whomever she can recruit from the board to work with you on that. So let's not forget that piece, everybody. So with that, first of all, I just want to open up. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment on the annual report? All 5 of you? Well, really 3 of you. Okay. I think that is the first time since I've been in chair that we've never had a public comment. So, right. I mean, even mean ones.
Have they given up?
Right. Well, we finally did our job like they wanted us to, I guess. With that, we will close then the public comment period. And at this time, I will entertain a motion to either approve or disapprove of the annual report as presented by the staff.
I'll give you a motion to approve.
Jeff gives a motion for approval. Any seconds? Beth seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The report is approved, and I guess I need to sign something right now, right? Okay, very good. With that, thank you very much. We now need to turn back to Jennifer's suggestion about us being, us basically the board meeting either in tandem with the staff or alone around this issue. And I don't know if we need a formal motion, but I guess it'd be, I'm seeing a yes. Great. Well, why not? Let's just get it codified. So a motion to authorize Jennifer and any of us to meet either alone or with the staff with some of the big grocery store chains to discuss packaging. I will entertain a motion to that effect. Hearing no.
Well, is this a motion to endorse or a motion to authorize?
Authorize. Thank you.
I move that we authorize Jennifer and anyone she can recruit to meet with staff and pursue dialogue with grocery store chains in the area.
All right, moved by Robert Deal. Is there a second? Beth seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
I need something. Any opposed? Motion carries. Jennifer, thank you. Great suggestion.
Who would
Oh.
like me to reach out to them?
Well,
Dory?
you would have to reach out to me, and then I would have to reach out to them.
To the board.
Okay, but just looking around, I see one person nodding her head. Anybody else?
On this side? All right.
Okay.
You have your volunteer. You have the cohort. Thank you very much, Doherty, Jennifer. Thank you. Okay, with that, if there is no other business before the board, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Deal moved. Ms. Jennifer seconded. All approve.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are officially adjourned. I don't have a gavel, but.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.